let's welcome to the show, Martyn Bomber Bradbury. Kia ora,
Hey,
sir.
comrades.
How you feeling? How you feeling, little buddy? How you feeling, buddy?
Oh, I mean, I shocked, disappointed, concerned deeply for where things go next.
Yep.
I was arguing that there were three outcomes that we were likely to see as we went and led into this very convoluted polling stage into the elections. My thinking was the first outcome would have been or could have been pollsters had underestimated the Democratic vote the way they had in the last election by 4 points, and that you might have seen a Kamala Harris landslide. The outcome number two was Trump has reached into that void of America and grabbed hold of the 35% who don't vote and dragged them into the and it would be a landslide to him.
Yeah.
Or the outcome three was it would be too close to call and he would try to gerrymander the situation and seize the process. We've ended up with outcome two, and I think that's the most dangerous outcome because he now has a mandate.
Yeah, but have we? Because he didn't get any more votes than the last time around. The Democratic candidate lost 15 million. So he didn't perform any better. The candidate for the left she did not outplay, whatever. She did not improve a single result from a single election result that Biden did. She was worse in every single state.
Yeah. And this was always the danger. This was always the danger of having a coronation and not an actual contest for the Democratic leadership when the realization that Biden just couldn't go on after that first debate. And they decided that solidarity and a unified front within the Democrats was more important than a contested primary. I think they should have gone for the contested primary. I think they should have found a better leader, but they didn't. They chose this. They went with it. And you're right. He doesn't have that much more than what he got, but he won in such numbers in those rural areas, and pulled in so many voters who wouldn't have normally voted, particularly young men. And he has won probably the most monumental political win in our collective lives, guys. This is so huge.
Well, with that question going around of what happens next, Piers Morgan held a gloat fest today. As you can see, total electoral bloodbath. But Crystal Ball, who was on, is they called Breaking Points, the show that she does with Saga, he posed that question to Crystal first of all. And she doesn't say the name, but Bomber, you'll probably remember, some out there will as well, Debbie Wasserman Schultz from the middle of the last decade. I'll explain why at the end of the clip, why she has some responsibility as to what's been going on. So here's the analysis from Crystal Ball as to what went wrong.
Yeah, no doubt about it. What I got wrong in this election is that I thought, even though I've been critiquing the Democratic Party, certainly since the Bernie Sanders movement, I thought that January 6th and the overturning of Roe versus Wade and Trump's manifestly authoritarian tendencies, as evidenced by the people who were closest with him in the White House, I thought it would be enough to overcome those problems on the Democratic side. And I was absolutely dead wrong. So a couple of problems specifically with Kamala's campaign. I think there was way too much spending time with Liz Cheney, spending time with Mark Cuban, way too little time spending time with Bernie Sanders, spending time with Sean Fain, who's the president of the UAW. And in general, Pierre, something I agreed with from your intro is the last guy who did the best with the coalition that is fleeing the Democratic Party right now is Bernie Sanders. And Democrats did everything they possibly could to block him from not only ascending to, be the Democratic nominee, but to block him from having any significant influence in the party. He offered a competing vision that could actually combat the fascism that you see with Donald Trump. Just talking about fascism, talking about how bad Donald Trump is clearly not enough to get the job done. And so we have the results that we have.
So Debbie Wasserman Schultz was the head of the RNC in that election where, let's be honest, sorry, the name just jumped out of my head. Vermont, she just said the name and it's just jumped out of my head.
Bernie Sanders.
Was railroaded. That she was the head of the RNC when that happened and he got railroaded. He should have had that position in 2016 and she was in charge of the RNC when he got railroaded. And looking back on it now, what's happened is, this is my assessment, is that the Republicans, as revolting as, you know, who Trump is, have gone more populist and the Democrats have stayed establishment, and this is just a big fuck you to the establishment. Like, this is not gonna fly in this current climate. Chewy, you haven't said anything yet. Do you want to jump in with any thoughts?
I don't know. I honestly haven't seen the thing today. I've kind of had my head in the sand a little bit, but I haven't seen an analysis today that has really gone, yep, that's it. That's it. I mean, there are things that I would say are a major factor, but Biden should have spent his last term going, I'm just doing one term, and this is who I'm picking. And
well, that's what he promised. That's what he got in on.
Here's years to get to know this person.
Yeah.
I do think I love Bernie, but he's too old. He's the same criticism we've had for everybody. You know, he was too old last time. He was saying all the right things. He just needed to be fucking 30 years younger. And we'd be talking a completely different game. I don't think anybody in either the traditional Republican Party, whatever remains of them, and the current Democratic Party knows how to take on this. And like, as much as I fucking hate to echo John Key, he described it as a movement, and this clearly is one. And movements, once they've got momentum, it's really hard to point that in a direction or steal them of that. And the outpouring I've seen in social media and in interviews today has mainly been from women going, this is devastating for us, and the ones that have realized that it is going to be devastating for their kids, their daughters, that sort of thing. The power that MAGA has. And I'm not even going to call it the Republican Party anymore because they're being eaten from within. It is MAGA. And the power that they have now to further stack the Supreme Court. I'm wondering how short this. No, we're not going to do all this crazy Project 2025 stuff. Just, you know, we said we had nothing to do with it, and for the next 3 months we won't. Yeah. I wonder if it's going to, and maybe this is because I'm a wee bit jaded because of what's happened here. I wonder if that feeling of, okay, we're catastrophizing now, but I'm sure it won't be that bad. Oh, and then 6 months later, we're going, oh, holy shit, it's worse than we could imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you have a look at what happens here, we've often talked about here about, you know, a right-wing government will move the yardstick slowly away, but they've just gone like all the way to the end of that ruler immediately. And they're already talking, there's articles out there talking about Trump is going to get going on day one. He's very, very clear. And he said something like, I've made promises and this is going to be a government of kept promises. So the stuff that he said about, you know, deporting both illegals and legals, you know, all these things is what he's promised. And that's what, well, I was going to say that's what he'll be held accountable to, but maybe he won't because he doesn't seem to be held accountable to lots of things. Bomber?
The only way you beat negative populism of Trump is with the populism of Bernie. What was Bernie talking about? Free education, free health. The actual fundamental underpinnings of what it is to be left, the universal left services and provision of those things. Real wages in America have not increased for 30 years. Jane DePoe was doing some amazing work for Watia, talking to working class people on the streets, and they were saying, I haven't had a pay rise for 12 years. 12 years. There are 650,000 Americans who were made homeless last year. 120,000 of them were children. 40% of Americans live each month to month, just one crisis away from being homeless. That level of grinding poverty the left and the Democrats have done sweet fuck all to do anything about. Just like Jacinda did sweet fuck all in this country towards the reality of the material hardship of people on the bottom. And it's because when we get into power on the left, we go, oh, we don't want to upset people too much and give people too much stuff. So we don't. And we don't give things to those people on the bottom. And those people on the bottom go, why am I voting for you again?
Yeah.
The way that they won this was so unique. Trump understands political resentment probably almost as well as Adolf Hitler does. And let's be very clear. Comparing Trump to Hitler is absolutely legitimate. Absolutely legitimate. I'm someone who studied and enjoyed studying the history of Adolf Hitler and his rise to power. And if you look at his rise to power and the way Trump has risen to power, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And his name should be Bitler, because really, if you layer them up, they're very similar. It's the same kind of cult of personality. It's the same kind of total loyalty to them. It's the same kind of crazy, occultish, MAGA, QAnon nonsense. He is an orange fascist, and he will, without doubt, take America and the planet to some pretty dark places as he fulfills his revenge fantasies.
Yeah.
If you look at the way he has targeted resentment, he understands resentment. As a blue blood billionaire from a blue blood New York family, the other billionaires always looked down on the Trumps, always looked down on his father, always saw him as a cheap scam artist, and he never got equality with him, never got what he thought he deserved in terms of respect. And when he got into The Apprentice, his foresight to look at the audiences beyond the audience. He knew what working class sensibilities were, the strive to get ahead, the struggle to get ahead. And he has harnessed that resentment, and he has been able to capture people who were outside the normal voting bubble. The Democrats were fighting with the Republicans for what was in that voting pie. He just went to another level. He just brought in more pie. He did this when he took over the Republican Party by appealing to all of these disaffected males who had felt ostracized and pushed out because of the identity politics, that they felt personally aggrieved. Trump's United States of wounded masculinity has won the day. And he has done it using social media in the same way the Cambridge Analytics people did. The tech bros and Elon Musk's role in this has been essential to reach out to all of those young men, particularly 18 to 29. Trump won 53% of first-time voters. Let that sink in, gentlemen.
Yeah, wow.
Let that sink in. We on the left have played to identity. And the danger of identity politics is the millisecond white poor men start seeing themselves as victims, which they have, that resentment implodes. Their lives have gotten harder, and we've done nothing for those people. And so they've gone for a snake oil merchant who's promised them revenge. That's what's happened.
You kind of started up part of the conversation I wanted to bring in. So if we think about this, and I think it is all 7 swing states. I know it was 5 with 2 he was leading.
Yeah, Jesus,
so
it's all 7.
All 7 swing states. The popular vote, which the last time that got won by a Republican was a wartime president in George W. Bush. And then before that, it's the early 90s. The White House, the Senate, and likely the Congress. Maybe not Congress, but likely it's going that way. There is no other way to look at this, and an absolute rejection of what the left have done and what the left have stood for in America.
Yep.
Now, you just said identity politics.
Yes.
I know that you're someone, Bomber, and we can do your little introduction from the working group. What is it? Fascists to the right of me. What's the next line?
Insufferably woke cancellation lynch mobs to the left of me. Yeah.
How much, and as Crystal Ball was speaking as well, I thought of it when she was talking about too much time with the Cheneys. We've been saying this since before the last election. We've been saying when then opposition leader Luxon came out talking about the CEOs don't like Labor, we were always like, yes, fine, that should be a billboard. We're for the workers, right? You can have the CEOs, we're for the workers. It seems to be a left problem right now. So because this is an absolute rejection of what the left have done and stood for, what do they need to lose? The left, what do they need to lose from their quiver of arrows that they're using at the moment that they think people want? I heard someone say today that they're sick and tired, people are sick and tired of the left telling them what to do and what to think. And that's one of the reasons in America that this has happened.
Look, and this has been one of the feedback loops that we have generated with our activists and our activism and our need to jump down the throat of everyone and destroy their lives because we had some power in 2016, 2017, 2018. Remember when we had that person sacked because they didn't like the fact that Whitaker's had put out a chocolate wrapper in Te Reo? Now, I think that guy was a dick as well. He didn't probably need to lose his job. And I just think our activism, and some of it in the past when we've gone a bit extreme, bless us, that has come back to bite us in the ass, particularly the trans issue. And if you look at the way they use the advertising in the rural areas to attack the trans issue, to attack the trans, and here's the thing that just kills me most about the whole trans issue, because this whole bullshit line, the Democrats want to give illegal alien sex changes in federal prisons. Here's the truth of that matter. Yes, there are rules placed on all prisoners that if they are transitioning, they're able to have access to their hormone medicine, right? That's just a basic human right. That's not controversial. The idea that somehow we were giving away all of these sex change operations, guess how many actual sex change operations have occurred in American prisons in the last 10 years? I'll tell you, two. None of them involved migrants who have been held, just two. And what we needed to do was just point that out. You're talking about two people who have had sex change operations. Not everyone, just two.
But
and so we don't need to dump any of our arrows. We just have to remember that broad church politics demands that we focused on policies that help us all. Pure temple politics, where, you have to agree with this and you have to agree with that before you can be on our side. Jesus, the right look for recruits, the left look for traitors. And we've allowed an orange fascist to win because we were too busy chasing our tails on some issues that bless are important to us, but there are bigger issues like the fact that people haven't had in America a wage increase in real terms for 30 years. 30 years.
Chewy, I'd love you to come in, but I was just bouncing off the back of what Marty said first. It's so there's been, just using that example you gave, there's been two operations.
Yeah, just two.
But the narrative
it's happening all the time.
That the right is able to sell, and we saw it here in New Zealand as well, the right, and we've always said this, the right are very good at playing politics. The right will, if I liken it to a sports ball game, the right will win dirty. They don't care how dirty or ugly the game is. They just want to have the win at the end of the game. The left want to have the perfect spiral pass, and they want to look fantastic as they're running down the touchline. They want their hair flowing in the wind, and they're almost like, we lost this one, boys and girls, but didn't we look good doing it? That seems to be the difference, that the right will do anything for the win, and the left, and I've been saying this for 20 plus years when I was working back at ZB, and the left like to play a good game.
We want to win the right way, but that's the wrong way to think about it.
Yeah, and the narrative that the right is able to get, forget what the issue is, they always seem to be able to get, I mean, like the perfect example in New Zealand is 15-year-olds who aren't reading at good enough levels. That was the narrative, right? That might be true, but it's true because John Key brought in national standards in 2011. So that part of the conversation got lost. And I don't know whether the left is just not good enough to get it out there, or the right is better at getting their lies out and then truth gets its pants on 3 years later or whatever. I'm just not sure how this all works. Sorry, Chewy, we've been raving. What are your thoughts, dude?
Oh, look, I have to say I am not a note taker, and you are stretching my brain to its full elasticity. I think as Kiwis, we can look on in absolute horror and not really understand what is going on, because America is a fucking alien planet to us. Like I started a comment earlier. Where did it go?
In the starred section, Chewy, if you start it.
Americans detest socialism.
Nah.
They do, but they also don't know what it is.
And they happy to use the socialism they have, like their libraries or their police force.
Because they've had decades and decades and decades of communism and socialism.
Yeah, anti-communism, yeah.
Absolutely. So you can come out and say Kamala is a communist. You can just fucking full on say it. You can run campaign ads on it. You can put it on billboards, and people go, bad, enemy. And they won't look any further about it. If you go out and say, hey, here's healthcare for all, they go, that sounds great. The moment someone says, did you know that that's socialism? Doom, dead in the water. I don't know how you unfuck America. Like, it is so riddled with, you know, people would vote for literally a chihuahua eating someone's face if it was running on the Republican ticket, because somebody has voted for them their entire life. That is my identity. That's what I stand for. I don't literally care about policy. And what you were talking about, Bomber, was combating absolute brainworms insanity. They're forcibly transitioning people in prison, and you're paying for it, is objectively nonsense. And someone gets up and goes, guys, you've just heard this guy spitting in a microphone about this for 20 minutes. I actually went and had a look, and it's only 2 people. And those people would go, I don't care. I don't care about this. We're still talking about Pizzagate. We're still talking about, like, they're going to put RFK in charge of the Food and Drug Administration. That is, the man eats bear meat and has a brain parasite that ain't part of his, like, that is objectively crazy, right?
Get rid of the education ministry. Getting rid of the education ministry.
About bringing whole milk and sunshine to make its country healthier. Like, I read this and I thought, so drugs that have been approved by the FDA, right, get fast tracked into Pharmac, right? Because a much bigger organization has already done all the hard work for us. We can't trust that anymore.
Yeah.
You know, he's gone on, you know, look, I'm not going to sit here and stand Big Pharma. Like, there's obvious huge problems with that industry. But they're going to go swing so much further to, like, just drink milk, unpasteurized milk. We don't trust science, straight from the tit of the cow. And every morning, get your asshole out and point it at the sun, and that'll fix your chakras. And we're all good. We're not doing hospitals anymore. We're just going back to leeches. That's what people are, because they've got their prejudices. And it doesn't matter if you stand up and go, well, here's the evidence that all of this shit has kept hundreds of millions of people more alive than they have ever been. They don't care. They don't care that people aren't getting sexually abused by trans people. They're getting sexually abused by the clergy. They don't care that the wall doesn't work and it was never built. They don't care. They don't care about any of it. It is just prejudice and ignorance and lack of education and too much faith in things that are intangible. And I don't know how you fix that.
Well, I think that the first way is that you've got to see this through the prism of loneliness, of intense poverty, people who are disconnected and alienated. This is fear-generated stuff. People have turned to this who don't have the luxury that we three have to an education and a desire to be intellectually curious and the time to be able to do that. You know, these are a lot of people who are on the fringes, who are voting not because you're right. They don't. It's not that they don't. You're right. They don't care, but they don't care because they've got no hope. They got no hope. They got no hope it's going to get better. They got no hope that the burnt down factories of their area and the economic decline that has marginalized them is never going to get back. They just want to elect someone who's going to hurt a system that they can't see and can't fight themselves. His win is a repudiation of a state that isn't able to provide properly for its people. And is he going to provide for them? Fuck no! No way is he going to provide for them. But he is going to manipulate their fear and their need. And if we want to win those people back, we got to reach out and we got to do a better job of that communication. And here's one silver lining, and I've got to give it to you, gentlemen, because I know that you need it. The latest Roy Morgan poll shows for the first time since the election of the government that Labour, Greens and Māori Party would be the government. They have lost the ability, National Act and New Zealand First, to form a government in the Roy Morgan poll. And a big part of that is because young men have left the right and come back to the left.
And they're watching us. Yes.
And that's why I'm always giving time to the BHN and why I've got so much love, because the work that you are doing to let young men know, hey, you can be left wing, and it doesn't question your masculinity, and it doesn't question who you are, and you don't have to crawl through this door. You can walk through. You can be part of this whānau, and the more of that we do, the more chance we've got of winning in 2026.
And look at the beards you can grow. All
Right.
of us, I mean, look.
Right.
I'm gonna play one more clip that most people have probably seen a part of. I'm just gonna play like 40 seconds of this. And then what we're going to do, gentlemen, so I'll give you the question now so you can start thinking, is what does the left in New Zealand need to learn from what's just happened in America? That's the last question, but we're going to watch about 40 seconds of this first.
I'm not having a liberal meltdown. Yeah, I'm just disappointed Trump won, right? I'm sure I'll get over it. It's hardly a meltdown, is it? I'm not thinking of hanging Mike Pence or taking a shit on the Speaker of the House's desk. It's hardly a proper meltdown, is it? Didn't he do well? Eh? First time round, he shocked the world. This time round, it was all but inevitable. He has been given, as he says, a powerful mandate, a conclusive cross-demographic coalition, proving once again that just relying on the vote of city-dwelling, latte-swilling liberal women doesn't win elections. One of the Democrats' final TV adverts was directly to women, and it essentially said, it's fine to vote for Kamala, just don't tell your husband. Yet when you're relying on women to vote for you, don't patronise them by making out they're all wife-battered wallflowers, because if you do that, you will lose.
There you go. There's just a little bit of Jonathan Pye where you can go watch it. It's a 5.5 minute clip altogether. So, last question, gentlemen. And look, I mean, I won't say that on here. What does the left in New Zealand need to learn from this, Bomber?
When you come in, you have to have your plans ready to go, bang, from day one. And those plans have got to be focused around materially lowering the cost of the weakest and poorest amongst you. Free public transport, free dental health, sugar taxes, more taxes focused on the rich. You put together a tax plan that targets the speculators and lowers the cost for everyone else, so they feel that change in their pocket immediately. Not through bullshit tax cuts that go nowhere, but in actual real terms, and you provide public services that can actually get things done. And you do it from day one, and you do it boldly, and you make it clear where you're getting the money from and how everyone else is going to get it. You've got to say, here's what we're going to do to make your life materially better, and you do it. And once you've done that, and once people get used to free public transport, once they get used to only 10% GST, once they get used to those things, they go, hey, I'm not losing this, and the policy stays.
Yeah. Chewy?
I'm just going to point that out, that the linchpin of what you've just said, Bomber, is dusting off the Greens' tax policy from the last election.
Yes.
And just banging that drum for months.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that was the thing. I can't believe that the media didn't pick that up as much, of going, yeah, okay, the Greens will never get it passed, but what a good idea. Let's talk about it. It just didn't happen. It had a runway of about a week and a half, and that was it. It was done. I agree that. Look, I think the lesson here, Chippy, listen.
You mean Kieran? Next election. Don't you mean Kieran for the next election?
Kieran, grab Chippy, bring him close to her. Look, playing the middle didn't fucking work. It didn't work. So do exactly what Bomber says. Promise the most good for the most people and show your workings. And don't get pushed off that. Don't let the other side tell you your narrative. Every time they go, see, Labor's increasing taxes. I'm glad you said that. Yes, of these specific people, you can tell where they are. They're at the top of the golden tower.
Yeah.
And just keep hammering that point. I think the other thing is, and this is for the media, however many of you are left, punish liars.
Yeah.
Absolutely fucking crucify them. Because the amount of lies that went through the US media, and maybe this just came down to the sheer weight of lies that were out there and how quick they changed, that they couldn't cover them all. But don't dilly-dally around the fact of like, oh, maybe this isn't true. No, they're fucking lying and they can't back it up. And you drag them into the town square, which is the entire purpose of our media during an election. You drag them into the town square and you go, these guys are lying to you. They think you're dumb. Here is our proof. We've brought the receipts. Lies. And maybe that'll get through to some people. There will be a big chunk of the electorate that goes, okay, yeah, I acknowledge their lies, but they're lies I like. And I'm willing to look past them and vote for them anyway. There will always be those people.
Yeah.
The other part of it is, I'm going to push back a little bit on the fact that the transition might be a distraction, or the culture war stuff as well. I would couch that in that we need to look after people. Like, I don't care whether they're gay, trans, Māori, immigrants, whatever. If they are getting jumped on, then we stand together with them. And that's the thing. We pick people up and we take them with us. We don't try and chuck people out of the boat. We don't, in trying to do that, we don't rally around in a really obvious, we're playing to the culture war sort of thing. It's just a case of, this person is a New Zealander. They live with me in this country. I think they should be looked after.
Yeah.
Common decency. Decency.
Yeah, because the other side are picking those groups off and making
very much
making
so.
it an issue about something that some people are uncomfortable with or don't understand. We need to circle our wagons.
Yeah. People may have seen the subtle Chewy rant image came up as we were talking about that. That was the Chewy rant.
Maybe we should get
image.
A version of this that flashes and has a siren.
I was thinking about getting it so it goes along the bottom of the screen, like just like a.
Do we have that? Do we have that in a hoodie yet?
Coming, caps as well. I've been looking at them.
Yeah.
Look, I just want to leave on this. The true demarcation of power in a liberal, progressive, capitalist democracy is the 1% richest plus their 9% enablers versus the 90% rest of us. The United States of America is a plutocracy now. It's a goddamn plutocracy. The billionaires who have enabled him, the very, very close tech oligarchs. We don't want to go down that path. And the sooner we find common ground between our fellow citizens against these rich pricks, the better for our survival.
Chewy, you said don't let them tell you your narrative when you're talking about National and Labour. how about this one? Don't let them change your narrative. The election that we just had, Labor changed their narrative to be tough on crime because they saw it working and everyone thought it was disingenuous. Here's my solution, what we need to learn. I think we need to get one of those very wealthy left-wing billionaires out there and start up our own think tank that's made up of, I've just started some names, Craig Rennie,
Yes.
Jordan Rivers,
Yes.
Paul Barlow,
Yes.
Spiderhoof, Bomber,
Yes.
Pat, Chewy,
Yes.
and we can start, because honestly, I remember when I was doing Talkback a lot, I used to speak to some political figures and they would just call me and they'd just talk about what's the vibe of the country, and these people I've just listed, Craig Rennie's in there for his executive, but all the other ones, the kind of broadcasters, podcasters, people who are talking, we sort of know what's going on. And this, I guess, again, it comes back to that idea of, that populism versus establishment. Establishment says, well, we know, and we'll drive our policies through. Whereas people who are more doing, I'm not saying literally this, but this kind of thing day to day, that's where you hear the populist stuff. So there you go. Left-wing think tank. Thanks to George Soros. Is that who you're supposed to say? Something like that. I don't know. Hey, Bomber, as always, been an absolute pleasure. We are in the process of getting those Chewy Rant hoodies. BHN has just purchased its own printing gear. So we're just in the process
awesome.
of getting that all set up and getting onto it.
Excellent.
Thank you for joining us. Commiserations to all our American friends out there. Look, I saw someone say today that they were celebrating the people who are supporters of Trump. What they didn't realize, it was actually an own goal, and they haven't realized that yet. But once they go through this cycle, just like the last time he was in, and he has literally he's the worst statistical president they've ever had. Now he's also what do they say? They don't call him a rapist, but they say he was adjudicated sex offender. That's how they say it. And he's a felon and all these things on top of that. And but he's not a black woman. So power to the people. So,
Hey,
all right, Marty.
Before we let you go, Bomber,
Yo.
have you spoken to Damien in the last day today?
Oh God.
No, I haven't spoken to. No. Why?
I just want to manage whatever he's got cooking for the working group next week.
Well, I haven't even looked at it. I've just been so engrossed in the American election. I have got no idea what we're doing on the show next week.
Something to look forward to.
All right. We all look forward to next Tuesday, the opening act, which is the working group to BHN. We love having you there.
The entree. You're
The entree.
Station.
All right, dude. Thanks for coming on. We'll talk super soon, eh?
Later, guys. Hooray.
All right, all the best.
Cheers, man.